I hit the button, but it doesn't. Supposedly. Felicia, does that show that it's recording on your end? Okay, there it goes. Now it turned red. Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome, SAT Force members and members of state government, members of the public, whoever might be watching this out on YouTube out in the future to get their updates. My name is Shawnee Harvey. I represent the Economic Development Department, and I am our Jedi Office Coordinator. So I manage our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office for Economic Development. I am taking over for chair of the Sustainable Economy Task Force as Joanna departed our office to go work with Santa Fe Economic Development. So I will be leading these meetings for the time being. And just wanted to introduce myself. I know that some of y'all might not know who I am, so that's who I am and what I do. I've been with the Economic Development Department for about 3.5 years, going on 4 in May, and boy, has time flown. I know the legislative session started yesterday, so a lot of people have kind of last minute changes in meetings, but what I will do is go ahead and call this meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. And before I go into the roll call, I just wanted to make a couple notes for the agenda that was sent out today. We've got a few folks who were unable to join us today, so we will kind of just move through those items and a couple items that we didn't hear back on. So we'll kind of move through the agenda, and I'll give a little preface each time that we move through that. So with that, I'll kind of start our roll call, and I have Lucinda Sido. Okay, absent. Stephen Moise. And also, if you're here to represent those people, please let us know and we'll note you that you're here as like a delegate. Okay, absent. Milo McMinn.
Here.
Thank you. Leo Delgado. Moving on, Tom Cole. I might have said that wrong. Okay, absent. Anna Linden Weller. Absent. Yolanda Cordova. Okay, absent. Steve Varick. Absent. Aurora Martinez. Absent. Patricia Trujillo. Absent. Stephanie Clark. Absent. James Poviwa let us know he wouldn't be able to make it today, so absent. Donna Bahar.
Present.
Thank you. Shawnee Harvey, that's me. I am present for the most part. Charles Woolman.
I am here.
Thank you, Charles. All right, so that will end our roll call. Is there anyone that I might have missed that is representing one of the folks on the list, or anyone here as a delegate that I might have missed? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Just kidding, we're not at a wedding. Okay, so all those names that I called will be listed as absent. If they come in, we can kind of mark them tardy, Felicia, so you could just note that in the notes. So I don't know that we're subject to OMA, but I wanted to see if we can have a motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting. And I can't make a motion myself because I'm chairing, so if someone could help me out with that. Does Joanna usually motion and approve and do the minutes for these meetings, or is that something that's untraditional for you all? Okay.
I'll move.
Okay.
Approve the minutes.
Donna's moved that the meeting minutes for the past meeting be approved. Do I have a second?
I don't know if I see Tom Singer's, but I'm not sure if he's speaking.
I am not speaking.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Thank you, Thomas. Can we have a second on the minutes? I think, second doesn't mean you agree with the motion, just means that you're allowing it to be heard. Maybe Milo or Charles, can one of you second? Thanks,
I'll second.
Milo. See you second. All right, it's been properly motioned and seconded that the minutes for the last meeting be approved. Is there any discussion on those minutes? They should have been sent out in an email by Felicia prior to our meeting start. Seeing none, we can move to a vote, and I have a note here. Yes, we can make sure that the minutes and agenda are resent out. Felicia, if you could send an email now to this group that's on the call and include those minutes for the last meeting as well as today's agenda, that would be really helpful. Okay, if we can move to a vote, and I'll ask you all to maybe use the hand raise function that's under your reactions bar, and if you have your camera on, you're more than welcome to raise your hand. Charles will get you on that distribution list. Thank you. So all in favor, please raise their hands. Okay, all opposed. Okay, seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. I believe when we accept the meeting, then again, I'm not 100% sure on the quorum for this meeting just because it is a pretty big group and I don't know that we have everyone present. But we'll just note that on the record. Okay, so I will move into our item 2 on the agenda, which is an statewide plan update on the RFP. Right now, the department is currently reviewing applications that were submitted for the state plan update on the RFP. And that group is working this week to hopefully have a selection on a partner for that contract by the end of the week. They're having those presentations, oral presentations from the folks who submitted their proposals today. So hopefully by the end of the week, there will be a final decision on who will contract to update the state plan. Moving towards item 3 on our agenda, which is the state plan website update. That, to my knowledge, has been put on hold until following the session. There is some kind of details on the contract that will need to be reviewed internally by EDD before that contract moves forward. So right now, as far as I'm aware, that website update is on hold for now. Okay, that ends item 3. We can move to item 4 on the agenda. Like I said, today's probably going to be a very quick and speedy meeting because of all the changes that we've had. Item 4 was a Sustainable Economy Advisory Council update from the STEEC chair, James Poviwa, but James was unable to make it today. So he is planning on sending an email update to the group as soon as he is able, and we will get an update just via email, and we'll make sure that everyone who's asked to be added to the list as well will get those updates as we get them from James, and we'll make sure that it's disseminated to this group. So I don't have any updates for that group at this time. I believe that their meeting is still scheduled for next week. So that should be moving forward all right. So item 5 on the agenda was policy and budget updates from the task force members. So Felicia and I had sent out an email, I think last week or the week before, requesting any information related to your respective agencies, if there might be any budget or policy or legislative asks that your agencies are making or looking at implementing that have anything in line to do with the work of the Set Force and SEEK, kind of in line with that transitioning away the economy from its reliance on extractive industries and etc. So if there is anyone, we did not receive any documentation from anyone in this group regarding those updates. So if there's anyone who would like to speak on what their agency or department is looking at doing as far as budget and policy recommendations in relation to the work of this group, I would offer that time for you each now to kind of give some updates if you'd like. So I will just awkwardly sit here for a little while we see if anyone has anything they'd like to add and speak on for the department. I know we're in the middle of session, so we will have 60 days of running nonstop and trying to get some stuff done, and hopefully come March we will feel a big sigh of relief and have gotten some good work done and gotten everyone's budgets approved, and hopefully everyone gets what they were bargaining for. All right, I haven't seen anyone unmute or raise a hand. So with that, I will end on item 5 on the agenda, and we'll move to item 6, which is our update from the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce from Mr. Rob Black. Rob, I'm handing it over to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. I am a member of the SEEK, was honored to be appointed to that group. So I'm going to be wearing a couple of hats, probably 2 or 3 actually today. While yes, I am the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, today I'm here actually more speaking from our foundation. We have the New Mexico Center for Economic Opportunity, which is our 501c3 foundation at the Chamber. The foundation was approached by EDD and then in partnership with Workforce Solutions to help facilitate sector convenings around the 9 key identified sectors for the state's 20-year economic diversification strategy. We started a kind of pilot on that. The first one happened at the end of October. That was that particular sector convening, and as a reminder, there's the 9 different sectors within the state plan around whether it's biosciences, intelligent manufacturing, trade, green and renewable energy, film, et cetera. These are all the areas where the state and the state's plan has emphasized an opportunity to diversify our economy away from our reliance on oil and gas. The first sector that we were asked to help convene was the green and renewable energy sector. That happened on October 21st. We brought in Janie Chermak, who is the chair for UNM's economics department, to help us facilitate that discussion. And that was done in collaboration. We worked very closely with Yolanda Cordova at Workforce Solutions and John Clark at ADD to execute that convening. We had about 40 to 50 people there for an all-day meeting at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, where we talked about 3 main things. We wanted to look at what were the opportunities for the sectors, for that sector of green renewable energy, what were the challenges, and what are the metrics we need to establish to track success over time. We were very pleased that through the partnership with Workforce Solutions, we had every chair of a workforce investment board around the state represented in the room with us to meet with employers. And those employers ranged from Pattern Energy to PNM to El Paso, and a lot of the renewable energy developers and transmission developers, as well as some of our hydrogen development group. So it was a broad spectrum of low carbon renewable energy providers, businesses that work in this sector. We also had representation from universities and from Los Alamos National Labs participate. The way it was structured is we did 3 different working groups, or we did 3 different sections. Again, opportunities, challenges, metrics, where we had a panel discussion to set a framework, and then broke into small groups to kind of deep dive into those various areas. And Shani, I'm not sure how much you would like me to present, but I can talk a little bit about the high-end kind of takeaways from each of those areas that came out of the discussions, We are in the final stages of creating a draft report that will be shared back to the various departments, get their final input, and then that will be circulated to you and to the governor's team and the LFC, with the idea that we will begin space and aerospace in the spring, as well as the next on the agenda as our recommendation from EDD is renewable agriculture, both kind of in the spring, early summer, and then continue these sector convenings and reports going back to the departments from there. High level, kind of on the opportunities, the group and the work and the representatives from LANL, industry, and our educational institutions really felt that obviously renewable energy demand creates a lot of different opportunities here in New Mexico, and that demand is driven from both the ETA that we've created here for our in-state portfolio standards, as well as the opportunity to sell and export energy to the Western United States and especially the West Coast. So we see both internal and export opportunities. We also believe that it creates a broader opportunity in New Mexico in that Fortune 500 companies that have an ESG requirement around their environmental sustainability see New Mexico and our portfolio leadership as an opportunity for a place to locate operations. And Facebook Meta, a server farm, is a great example of that sort of synergy where, while yes, Meta is not a renewable energy company, they located in New Mexico because of access to affordable renewable energy as part of their overall sustainability goals. So we believe that that creates not only this particular sector, not only creates jobs in energy, but it creates a broader sector of jobs by making New Mexico more attractive for businesses to locate and invest. Other opportunities that were identified are opportunities with our national laboratories to collaborate. That we believe that there's an opportunity for really workforce growth in New Mexico to prevent brain drain and losing, because we are predicting a loss of working age population in New Mexico over the next 10 years. Growth in this industry could help stem that loss. And then also areas around where we have assets and opportunities. Our state lands office has great resources, large tracts of land, as well as private land that bode well for wind and solar development. Outside of generation, and again, in partnership with our labs, we see that we have unique opportunities for developing storage capacity in New Mexico to store renewable energy, that there's opportunities around high voltage transmission line development, as well as dispatchable power for grid balancing that will be needed under the Energy Transition Act. And finally, there's a belief that an opportunity is for New Mexico to participate in a regional transmission authority or organization, an RTO, to allow for better grid balancing, power need balance, generation and need balancing, as well as opening markets to export renewable energy. Some of the barriers that were identified. Key barriers were technical challenges, workforce, and regulatory. In particular, there is a belief that I mentioned energy storage as an opportunity. The lack of energy storage in New Mexico as we develop renewables is a real detriment and a risk factor for the state. In part, the risk factor is if you look at Texas, when they lost their balance and had blackouts, there was a large pushback on renewables as a consequence, fairly or unfairly. But ensuring that we have not only a green portfolio, but a stable delivery system that's reliable is very, very important. So storage will play an important role in that. But today we do not have sufficient investment in that or regulatory support to grow that sector sufficiently. And so it creates that risk. Also, permitting was a huge issue. Probably permitting and regulatory the regulatory environment was probably the number one issue raised. And that gets to time delays, authority ambiguity, which departments do which. Are we in dealing with state lands, dealing with federal lands, dealing with tribal lands, Department of Transportation, Department of the Environment? All these different entities overlap often and create authority ambiguity and challenges on the regulatory side. And then there's also the concern that was raised was a lack of alignment across state government. And that looks like the Department of Transportation focused on ensuring that they're getting a market rate for right-of-way access. Well, that means the cost of renewables go up and transmission goes up. Similarly with the State Lands Office, it was raised that there's a feeling that State Lands actually negotiates at market rate or better than market rate because of demand opportunities. And that's good for them because they have a short-term goal of building up the state lands funds that go into our permanent funds and benefit the state's beneficiaries. But that also means our renewable projects cost more than they should, therefore our energy costs more than it should and makes it harder to deploy additional renewable energy. So there's these conflicting goals and priorities that were identified between state agencies that if we want alignment around deploying renewables and building that strong sustainable grid, there needs to be better alignment. And then workforce inadequacies was another key finding. And I'll use one of the companies that has developed a very large wind and transmission projects here in the state, talked about bringing in, they needed about 2,000 to 3,000 employees over the last couple of years. 95 to 98% of those were out-of-state workers. They were not New Mexico workers. They attempted to work with local training programs and were rebuffed. So there needs to be better alignment with our two-year community colleges, our training programs with industry need, especially when it comes to technical training programs, and ensuring that there's that deep alignment. So that was a key piece. And then staffing, not only in the private sector, but the public sector was identified. And a key piece to that was the need to provide sufficient resources to hire in our various key departments, whether that's the PRC, state lands, Department of the Environment, those agencies that need to provide technical experts who are difficult to hire and expensive, may need higher pay rates, but they also need more bodies to help process the applications. And part of the technical part was this idea that the better technical experts, the more consistent decisions and the more consistent regulatory environment you have. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, as long as if it's consistent, that is the key piece. Depending on the decision is less important as kind of understanding what the process is and how to do it consistently and fairly. And so those were some of the key findings as challenges. So workforce, permitting, regulatory were the key areas of challenge for that was identified. And then for metrics for success, there was a lot of discussion about kind of what are the things that we need to be tracking over time to determine if we're being successful in the effort to grow this particular industry sector. And those are, many of them get to things that you would kind of top of mind think, job growth, but also not just within the industry, but can we track those jobs that are attracted to New Mexico because of our access to affordable renewable energy. Increased revenue, wages, number of companies locating to New Mexico because of those reasons, average application time by department, how long does it take from application to decision on these various permits that are required for deployment of these various pieces of renewable energy sector, overall job growth, reliability of energy production, and then cost of energy. So those are some of the metrics that were highlighted. In particular, though, there's an interest in developing kind of a deeper dive that looks at that at the county level, so that we're looking at these various metrics at a more localized level to provide better direct feedback, so that we're able to make use of that information in future decision making and investments. So that is the overall. I think those are the main findings we had that came out of that will be in the report that we'll provide to EDD and Workforce Solutions. Again, I think overall the feeling was it's a strong growth opportunity. We need to invest heavily in our workforce, not only our public sector, or not only our private sector, but also our public sector, align our training programs with these industries. And because of the fact that New Mexico today can produce the lowest kilowatt per hour wind energy really in the United States, it gives us a great competitive advantage both for delivering energy in state and out of state. But those workforce issues and barriers and costs around regulatory barriers are a detriment to growth. So with that, I'll pause and if there's any questions or feedback, happy to take that. Again, our kind of next steps as identified by EDD and Workforce Solutions will be a sector convening on space and aerospace in the spring, to be followed by renewable agriculture. Space and aerospace, we will partner with New Space New Mexico to execute that, because they have a great network of already built for key stakeholders. On New Mexico, on the value-added ag, we'll be partnering with the Ag Department, with New Mexico State to help execute that and produce the reports there. So then with that, I will pause and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. And just a quick note, Felicia, I have Liliana Castillo that is trying to enter the meeting that's having issues with the link. If you could see if you could send that to her or monitor the chat. Thank you, Rob, for those updates. I think it's really important for this group as we project out for the future of New Mexico, that we're looking at what those renewable and alternative industries are that we're bringing into the picture, but also as we incorporate them into the state's economy more, so that we really need to think about what are the barriers and obstacles to making sure that there's a smooth transition. So I'm happy to hear that several of the agencies that you mentioned are also involved in these meetings and on this group. So it'll be really good for kind of what to think about, what we can do now in our capacity as state agencies to make sure that when that time comes and we're looking at kind of some of those deals and those companies and those metrics, that we can try and make those changes sooner rather than later, so that we're not fighting to keep up with regulatory changes as we have those opportunities coming into the state. Does anyone on the call have any questions for Rob at this time?
I believe Miori does some. She's asking Rob, how do you connect technical training programs to potential employers?
Good question. I think a couple of different ways, and I was very, very pleased that Workforce Solution brought the leadership from each of our workforce investment boards from around the state. I think that's a key piece, is aligning what's happening with our workforce investment boards at the regional level with employers, and so that they can hear directly from employers and their needs. And then I think working with our higher education department to identify opportunities where different types of training currently exists, connecting that with employers who are looking to hire, whether it's the Pattern Energies of the world or their sub vendors who are supporting them, like Kelly Cable, who does a lot of the ditch digging and line and splicing. So those are I think aligning those sort of companies that provide the actual services with our 2-year and building trades programs to help us shape that curriculum. The other thing we did hear around that is especially for large, and this is a role that maybe Workforce Solutions can play, in these large projects, whether you're building large transmission lines or wind farms or solar farms, they're construction projects. So you have a lot of people needed for a period of time, and then that job goes away. but there's a need for housing, and there's a need for in regions. So thinking about how do we support those, that sort of a large multi-hundred, multi-thousand person construction workforce, and then how can we help stage them with other developers over time so that we're not recruiting all of those construction workers from out of state to come into Mexico, but we're actually producing them homegrown, and we cadence them and help find them jobs with new developers in New Mexico. So I think there's that connectivity piece, but there's also the connectivity with the existing work training programs.
Thank you, Rob. And I see Patricia just joined us, so just to note that for the minutes. Thanks, Felicia.
Yeah, I've been on, and if I may, I actually have a comment regarding what Rob just said. This is Patricia Trujillo. I'm from the Higher Education Department, and I do just want to give an update that with the WIN grant, the Good Jobs grant that North Central New Mexico received, is that HED is a part of that, in that they are funding us to create a common course numbering system for our career technical education classes. And this is going to be one of those things where a rising tide raises all ships, because even though the grant is focused on the construction trades and the health trades in northern New Mexico, obviously the common course numbering is going to benefit the entire state. And so also in regards to what Rob was saying, is I think that this could also be a really critical opportunity for us to asset map, so we find out exactly what CTE programs we have. So the certificates at the different institutions and community colleges, and also the 2-year programs, especially in light of the Opportunity Scholarship being able to fund those. And so I would just echo everything that was just said, and really want to say that we want to partner and figure out how we create these pathways so that we get students trained up and into those, family sustaining career, salaries and careers. And so just know that HED is on board.
Patricia, I appreciate that very much. And I actually will follow up with you separately on another program we're working with on Workforce Solutions on around CTE alignment and that asset mapping. That would be hugely helpful. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I look forward to it as well.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to note a question in the chat from Michelle. Can you just tell us again, Rob, you had mentioned briefly, but when the report would be available and circulated to this group?
My hope is that we will have a draft back to the departments to review prior to the end of this month. So my hope is that maybe even within the month, at your next monthly meeting, this could be available. But understanding that we're in mid-session and it's harder to get those sort of reviews done, both from our side and from the department side. But our goal will be to provide the draft report to the departments for review by the end of the month.
Thank you, Rob. And Milo?
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say good morning, everyone. I'm the new Director of College and Career Readiness for the Public Education Department, so CTE is right in our realm. I had an opportunity to meet Rob a couple months ago. But Patricia, I'm so excited about the Common Course coding. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to our students at the K-12 level. And any way I can help so that we can start aligning our programs of study to roll into those and meet the needs of these priority sectors. So excited to be a part of this.
Great, nice to meet you, Milo. And I should also say that we're at the ground level. We have our hired contractor, and so the work, ideally, I think we're planning on it being done by about May, June, or if not, pretty far down the road. So we'll keep everybody updated.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any more questions for Rob at this time? All right, seeing none, thank you, Rob, so much for your time and for wearing the many hats that you do and giving us back the information that we need all to be successful. So thank you for giving us those updates. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Take care.
That concludes item 6 on our agenda. Another announcement on item 7, which was supposed to be an update from the UNM Center for Sustainability and Responsible Business. Unfortunately, we did not hear back from that office or from that program, so we don't have anyone here today to give an update on that program. But what Felicia and I will make a note to do after this is we'll reach out again to that group to see if there's something that they'd like to provide in the meantime, whether that be via email or if maybe we get them on the agenda for the following meeting, since this agenda was kind of designed and put together before I stepped in as chair. So we're kind of going off of what I'm going off of what Joanna led me to believe and told me would be happening this meeting. So for that item 7, we'll go ahead and put a pin in that and work on it later. And then at this time, we'll close out that item and we'll move to item 8, which is public comment. So I'll open it up to public comments, but I did have a Miori from the Environment Department who wanted to introduce herself. So I'll hand that over to you at this time.
Thanks, Shawnee. My name is Miori Harms, and I am the new uranium mine reclamation coordinator for the state of New Mexico's Environment Department. And not only am I new to the position, but the position itself is new, and it's very unique. So I am going to be working with our mining and environmental compliance sector, as well as the mining and minerals department, which is in the EMNERD department. So part of what we think about with uranium mine reclamation is regulatory, but my position is also tasked with finding the financial means as well as the workforce means to actually make reclamation happen. So I am tasked with working with the workforce solutions as well as economic development departments to create a plan to have uranium mine reclamation become one of the target industries for the state. So we want to be that 9th target sector that you mentioned, and I want to have all these resources that I've heard about to create that. So the reason I was asking about targeted technical program training is there is definitely a disconnect between out-of-state workers coming in and having our local workforce disconnected from those potential employers. In reclamation, the person who is paying for reclamation decides who they will hire. And these consultants do not have any local resources, so they automatically pull in over 90% out-of-state workers. And I would like to change that. So I would like to create a training and development program or partner with those who can do this sort of training so that we can really, really line those up with the exact employers, not just as a sector, but also with direct employers who will agree to hire those that we train. So that's what I'm looking to do. And I look forward to connecting with many of you on these topics. And thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary, for sharing that with us. A very cool position and big work you have ahead of you. Let me fix this. And Anna Linden, I see you have your hand up. I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I just wanted to actually ask Miori a question, which was, would you find it useful to have your opposite number in EMNERD from our mining and minerals division come to these meetings as well?
I assume you're talking about Clint Schisler?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I am in contact with Clint very closely. He's mostly on the regulatory side. He can help me with this, but I haven't explored if there's an interest there. So,
well, let me know if that ends up being something that you think would be useful for both you and Clint, and I can make sure that he gets here on appropriate occasions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. And we are in the public comment section of our agenda, so I will open up the floor. Is there anyone who wanted to add something or comment on anything or give us some feedback? I'll open that up to you all now. Alrighty then, seeing none, I think that concludes our public comment section of the agenda. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Thank you, Donna. It's been moved to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Milo. It's been moved and seconded, and a motion to adjourn does not require any discussion, so we'll move to a vote. All in favor of adjourning this meeting early, and you guys all get 45 minutes back? All right. I am seeing. All right, I think I see, well, I'll raise my hand as well. 3, so 4 in the affirmative. Okay, all opposed? Anyone want to hang out here and we can just stare at each other's faces for a little while longer? All right, well, seeing none, motion to adjourn passes, and I adjourn this meeting at 10:13 a.m. And with that, we'll reach out to you all with any further updates that we receive from the group. And we'll be in touch about our next meeting, probably here in a few weeks. But thank you all for your time, and you all enjoy your day and stay safe and stay warm. Thank you.